Oh, I love when Sam Amy's back, by the way. Senior writer for The Athletic. He is here. Sam,
we gotta get Sam a highlight
day.
tape when he gets on here.
I know. We need it's kind of rude that we don't have a hype tape for you
Come
right
on,
now.
Sam.
By the way, before we get to all things current right now, we just ended the last segment talking about dirty players. Every generation's had their own list. Like, today, if we make a list today, Draymond's on it, right?
You didn't like the answer you got, Michelle, so
Yeah.
you're just coming to me with it.
That's exactly what he said.
No, don't tell my secrets. Don't tell.
No, I'm with the guys. I mean, he's tough as nails. Chandler's dead on about the way he handles the refs. I mean, that part, that secondary play last night was just like, because that's Draymond not being able to let it go, and so somebody else bears the brunt of that. But if I'm being real, like Dylan's had some dirty plays. Does that mean his career, he's defined as a dirty player? No, but you guys had me thinking about the Gary Payton, dunk when he broke his arm, I think it was, when he was up, going for the dunk. And there's been a lot of moments like that with Dylan. But no, I don't have Draymond.
Oh, I got a good dirty player.
Talk to me.
Grayson Allen. He's throwing some
It's
jabs
been a while.
in there.
It's been a while.
He's been quiet, but yes, the beginning was
I
don't think
very
Grayson's
doozy
dirty.
at the beginning.
It's the undercutting.
I got an old school dirty player.
Here we go,
He's
see, Sam?
actually the GM of the Warriors.
Mike Dunleavy?
Dirty as hell.
Really? I split him one time.
Yeah, he's a dirty player.
Sam,
for sure.
you're just
You're a
coming on a
dirty
great
player,
day.
too.
This is what we're going to talk about the whole time. Okay, that's interesting. 5 years from now, we'll check back in and see what the list looks like. But we are going to start in the Bay because we got to talk Jonathan Kuminga. First of all, any updates that you
And don't react like Coach Kerr when we ask you a Kuminga question.
I know.
Say it again. Don't do what now?
Don't act like Coach Kerr. Don't react like Coach Kerr when we ask you a Kuminga question, though.
What did I saw? Quick context. What did I miss there? What was his reaction?
They asked him a question. He was just like, oh, surprise, surprise. Another Kuminga
Oh,
question.
yeah. Okay.
Like,
I'm
He's
with
over
you.
it.
Yeah.
that's the story.
No, yeah, that is a story. They're exhausted by it. It's funny. I mean, to tie that in to DeMarcus's point about dirty players. I mean, Mike gives a dirty press conference. You know what I mean? Like that bar that he had on Kuminga the other day kind of told you everything about the mood on both sides. No change in the situation in terms of what I'm aware of. It is awkward. It is uncomfortable. Watching last night, Jonathan, man, he not only was playing well, but that one lob dunk that he had just kind of reminded you that he's a guy that just jumps off the page athletically. And so then he turns the ankle. He steals the little girl's seat and he sits down and tries to collect himself. I don't know. They need him now. I would, we'll see what happens, but I would be surprised if he moves anytime soon. And what I'm starting to think, everybody, is that they're so desperate to do something big, and Jonathan would still be important if they were able to do something big, not necessarily before the deadline, but even down the road. That it does make me wonder if this thing ends up extending, because right now some of the names and the options that you hear tied to the Warriors, they just don't move the needle in any sort of way that's close to a Jimmy Butler to actually, the goal is to get number 30 back into contention, right? Like that's what you're trying to do. And that gap is so big that I could see them being even more patient now.
Sam, if Kuminga was to remain after the deadline, how do you see him and Steve Kerr working?
Boogie, I think it's just, they make it work. I've talked to Jonathan about Steve. I've talked to Steve about Jonathan. Do I think they hate each other? That's a really strong word. No, but they don't like each other's styles. And I think that, one guy's getting paid $22.5 million to do a job. I forget Steve's number, but I believe he's the highest paid coach in the NBA. I think they just got to lock in and do the work because it's mutually beneficial. Now, Steve's thing is a little different. He's got no contract after this season. A lot of questions about what his plans are. But if you're Jonathan, I heard you guys were talking about, do you play through the end of the season? Do you play through the deadline? Like, of course you do. He's too young. He's been on the shelf for too long. It's even just for himself, he's got to keep developing. And the only thing I've been thinking about this week, and maybe I'm being a little too tough on him, I almost look back at last summer. There were opportunities for Jonathan to go to the Kings on a lesser deal, maybe make about $15 million a year instead of 23, 24. And him and his agent, Aaron Turner, they were really stubborn, saying, no, this is his market. And I know demand and market, that's the buzzword of the week. And they just didn't like what they saw in the market. And so they took this deal where you knew you were going back to a team that didn't like you. And you know, in that regard,
Yeah, but
it's just unfortunate.
You cannot like me for...
It's
Can't
bank,
leave money on the table.
it's banks everywhere, Sam. We got
That's a big one, though, Sam.
I know,
That's a big gap.
That's a big gap.
Absolutely.
Sam, the reality.
We're like, you can hate me for $8 million more. I don't care.
That's fine. I'll take those $8 million right to the bank, and you can still not play this season. No problem. Been there before. The reality is, Sam, even before Jimmy's injury, the Warriors were pretty average this season. And now there's talks, is there a world in which Steph Curry's not possibly a Warrior? Does he ask out? Do they let him, decide to mutually let him go shop? Like, how does that situation
No, I don't see it.
No shot.
It's funny because it's like, yeah, exactly. It's no shot. It's a question that, like, A, is fair, but B, it gets asked outside of the Bay and outside of Northern California a whole lot more than it gets asked here. You know what I mean? Because there's just an energy here where it's like, first of all, Steph has never sent any signals that he has any intention of anything other than finishing with the Warriors. You know, he still has good relationships with Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy and staff. He still has a level of belief, I think, in them. I mean, it's pro sports, so never say never. The other part of that is that, you know, basketball is obviously Steph's priority, but he built up this empire where, in terms of his post-playing career, and I think the way that he would like the optics to be, you know, like, I think he wants to own that all the way through the end. I mean, Forbes came out recently with the valuations of franchises, and I mean, that man almost on his own has put them up there with the Cowboys and, you know, and the biggest brands in pro sports. So I think it's even a little bit bigger than can they contend for a title.
Assuming also he'd want to finish this thing with Kerr as the coach too. Like,
that part's to be determined. I mean, it's interesting. I tried to push a few weeks back on the question of, do we have any clarity here on what Steve's going to do? What Joe Lacob wants to do. Was told in no uncertain terms that that's not going to be discussed and handled until the off season. And then we've had rumors on both sides. I mean, not too long ago, there was some kind of chatter around the coaching staff that, maybe there was going to be an extension coming down the line. And then this week, you know, one of my friends and colleagues from The Ringer, Logan Murdoch, had a piece that talked about how Warriors assistant coaches were kind of quietly planning for their next stop in anticipation of Steve not being back. And, you know, that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, but those are the types of breadcrumbs that sometimes end up telling you where it's going. So we'll see.
Talk a little Giannis here. We all heard him. We all saw him Wednesday night. He seemed very, very sad and was calling out teammates. So we're sort of hitting all the different chapters of a breakup. You know, I'm never leaving. I don't know if I'll still be here. Everything he told you. So
yeah.
How are you feeling now as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline and we see him so kind of out?
Yeah, it's admittedly, it's been a funny experience because we have that discussion and he's deliberate and he's direct and he's got his messaging down and we cleared up some things. And then, man, he's just been on a heater ever since. You know, he gets booed by the fans and then he boos them back. So now you got the negativity is swinging in that direction. You know, you have frustration with this team and he's being pretty vocal about that. He's not getting as many shots as he's used to. And he's being pretty diplomatic about it, but like there's some very real basketball stuff happening right now that's pretty puzzling. I don't blame him for being frustrated. So I don't know. I mean, it does, you know, it feels like, we're getting close to the perfect recipe for maybe everything he said, you know, not happening, if that makes sense, because it's not just the level of angst and discontent with him and the Bucks. You know, at the same time, some of the different teams that could potentially be in the running, you know, their circumstances had changed. I don't necessarily see, for example, a Knicks deal happening, but like when you see the Knicks lose 9 out of 12, then naturally you start going, oh boy, like is James Dolan gonna say, all right, forget about this current crew, let's go for the big fella in Milwaukee. You know, Miami signaling that they're not gonna pursue Ja Morant shows you that they still have some level of hope when it comes to Giannis. I mean, and even the Warriors, I mean, that's their white whale is Giannis. That's their dream target. And so we'll see where that one goes.
Yeah. Sam, let's say they don't trade Giannis and the Bucks are buyers at the deadline. And we've seen them in previous years. They brought in Drew Holiday at the deadline, brought in a Dame Lillard at the deadline. What are some options out there for them if they continue to move forward with him?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're tied to more players than anybody out there. So on the one hand, you have this like perception of aggressiveness, but we also haven't had any indication that like there's real progress on any deal. So a couple names, Lou, you're talking about Zach LaVine, Malik Monk in my neck of the woods. They've been tied to them, and they've done some research, and you can tell that they've been thinking about that. I'm not sure the extent of those conversations, but Zach's got huge money. Malik is less money, but a couple of years. The one I wrote about today that is a pretty interesting one is Miles Bridges. But, you know, Charlotte wants a lot for him, a first, maybe even 2 firsts, and they don't want Kyle Kuzma. So that is certainly an obstacle. You know, you've heard them tied to Michael Porter Jr. You know, I think they just know that they need some sort of roster injection. So we'll see, you know, what other names come up.
Got to talk a little bit about the Baxter Holmes article. It's obviously the entire article is about the Buss family drama, but no one seems to care about that. We just want to talk about LeBron and everything that sort of came out of the article on that. I know he said he doesn't care, and you know he was accused of having a quote outsized ego, at least by Jeannie Buss. Quietly though, is this enough for him to think, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm going to go somewhere else? Do you think that would push him in any direction?
I don't know. I tend to think that he knew all this already. You know what I mean? Like, does it change it when it's louder? Maybe. You know, it's an annoyance, it's an irritation. As a side note, I did find it funny. You know, I had, it was just over text, but I had used a quote from Jeannie Buss in response to that article where she, you know, wanted to clarify that she did appreciate everything LeBron had done. I did laugh. A lot of readers and fans were like, oh, so, you know, there's zero denial about all of the family drama, you know?
Oh, for sure.
But the LeBron thing has been, you know, I've written several times. I've described it like a marriage of convenience between him and the Lakers. He loves the market. His family's very comfortable. They won the title in 2020. You know, the kind of the thing that's like an open secret about his dynamic in LA with the Lakers is that, of course, he wants to continue winning and he would love to win another chip. But once he got that title in 2020, there was a sense that he had, you know, mission accomplished type of thing. And so from there, it become, you know, last summer, it was really obvious that the two parties were not in a great place. When you don't offer a guy who's in the conversation for greatest player of all time any sort of extension, he had the option. They basically waited to see, do you want to pick up the option? And they didn't offer anything contract-wise. That told you everything you needed to know, that it was Luka's team now and that they were not interested in retaining, you know, LeBron's $50 million salary slot. So that's another one where very interesting next few months. Is he going to hang it up? Is he going to look for another place? But I don't think anything's going to happen before the deadline.
Man, the game within the game. Sam, as always, we appreciate you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Sam.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys. See you soon. Yep.
On the other side, Kobe Sanders joins the show. There he is. We'll be right back.